Hey everyone, Viper here today bringing you a commander tutorial for Beyond the Wire. I've noticed in a lot of matches there's a timidness and a lack of training on the commander role, and I wanted to put this video together to help those new people out, or maybe people who have not tried the commander role before. And I especially think number 3 is important and something most commanders don't put much thought into, and encourage even experienced commanders to take a look at this guide because you might learn something new, who knows. But before we hop into it, I make videos here on my channel and I stream on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Gaming. I would very much appreciate a follow or a sub on those platforms if you prefer. And it would mean a lot if you subscribed or gave me a follow. So let's hop right into it. Let's start with the basics. Head to create a section, select the command section, and hit create. Each faction will call it something different. American, British, Canadians, and Harlem Hellfighters call it the headquarters section. French Army calls it a section de commande, and Germany calls it Kommando Truppen. You can also be sure it's the correct one by the star symbol next to the name. And congrats! You'll now have a two-person section with yourself as the commander. Germany is an exception to this rule, and they have a four-person command section in their army section makeup. But something important to note is it's not completely necessary to have a signaler anymore with the most recent update, the Canada 100 Days update. You can have one which will make your life easier, but there are stationary phones around maps to call and support, which we'll get to later. Next is communication. Communication and coordination are incredibly important in Beyond the Wire, especially if you want to win. I can't tell you how many matches in the hundreds and hundreds of hours I've played where the difference maker is a good command chat communication with coordinated pushes and defense by competent squad leaders. By default, command chat with all SLs and the commander himself can be accessed via the caps lock key, and it's super helpful to coordinate pushes, support call-ins, etc. Over communication is better than no communication as long as it's relevant to the match and not what you think your KD is. P.S. You can also apply that lesson to anything in life about over communication. I always use it, and it's always just a good thing to do. Number 3 is tactics. When coordinating attacks and defenses commander, you don't need to be well versed on platoon level World War I tactics. Hopefully you're not actually, because they just charge in a straight line. But use your common sense. For example, if your men need some cover pushing up, a smoke barrage directional across the front of the objective can do the trick. If enemies are dug in under cover, safe from field guns and grenades, you might want to even the playing field. Gas would be the best way to do that. When your men are ready for a big assault on an open point, obviously artillery will help soften the enemy up before they charge in. And when you're on defense, use similar logic. You want to put all the killer assets between your men and the enemy to prevent them from pushing or defending entrenched unscathed. All right, so number 4, finally, we're at the good stuff. How do you actually call in and use the commander abilities? To start, all of your assets are reliant on CP, which stands for command points. Command points are generated passively over time at the rate of 1 point per 3 seconds or received in bulk when you capture objectives. To call in support, you or your SL must take your binoculars out and left-click and put down a marker. That creates a mark on the map. You'll be able to tell which mark is which with the squad number, so if squad 3 tells you they need a support on their mark, you don't have to ask for grid coordinates, you can just look at the number. Each squad can only have one mark at a time. Like I mentioned earlier, you can either use the stationary phones around the map, or you can actually go up to your signaler and hold down F. Once you finally get up to the phone or the signaler, you can actually click on the marker, which you want to call in the support on, and after you click that marker, click the support that you want to spend your command points on. Click whether you want it to be a area effect or directional. Directional and area have their own use cases. If you don't know, definitely just pick area. But directional is very helpful for artillery in a straight line where you know the enemy is. Smoke, obviously, across the front of the objective, because if you just want to call an area strike of smoke or artillery, it just does that circular area, and it's not very helpful if you're just trying to get a long stretch of ground. Ability costs are as follows and subject to change since this is still an early access game. High explosive artillery is 250 command points and takes 12.5 minutes to passively generate. Chlorine gas artillery is 120 command points and takes 6 minutes to passively generate. And finally, smoke artillery is 80 command points and takes 4 minutes to passively generate. As you can see, generating CP passively isn't the way to call in supports. Your team will need to capture objectives to start giving you some real firepower consistently. But the good news is you can at least call in some smoke at the beginning of the match to help your team and hopefully capture an objective quickly. So finally, where should the commander be on the battlefield? Quick answer is a bit behind the line if you're calling in assets where the phones are. No use charging into the fray with your signaler and dying and needing to be revived when your team's screaming at you to please call in support. They need help on certain points. But of course, if you notice a certain flank needs some help pushing or help defending and you're out of command points and can't really do your job until they generate again, take out your pistol or sword and jump straight into the fight. And of course, the rest of your section doesn't have to be around you all the time as well. You can send them around until you need some help in a certain area. That's it for now, and hopefully this helps some of you new players out. If you guys have any advice with your experience as Commander, feel free to drop a comment below. See you guys next time, and check out my other Beyond the Wire tutorials as they come out in the future.